the limited success or success that I do have has all come from massive failure, catastrophic failure almost. I'm sure we'll get into talking about that.
How do you go from being a student to someone who turns drawings into city
And
skylines?
well, it's a long process.
Welcome back, Nation, to another weekly episode where we sit down with high performers to unpack how they are thriving in their field and what you can do to apply it to your own journey. Today, we're breaking down what it really takes to build a career in engineering, construction, and real estate development, starting as a student and growing into a leadership role. Today's guest is Jonathan Parraga, a professional engineer and director of development at TCU, with 25 years of experience ranging from engineering, design to project management for billion-dollar projects. He's built a career on teamwork, taking ownership. So, Jonathan, be welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I think you pretty much summed up my career pretty quickly. Where do you want to start in that sense? It says I'm in my 50s. I've had a long career so far and a really great career. Like definitely hasn't been linear. And I've changed a couple times, which is, I think, is part of, when you mentioned you wanted me to come on here to talk about success. And success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I'm really happy with where my career has taken me and where I've ended up. And it definitely has not been a linear path. It's almost become full circle from what I kind of dreamed of when I was young. And it took me a long route to get to be on the owner side of stuff and to be able to develop buildings, essentially. But, that career path through engineering and what have you has been a fantastic path. I'm really happy about that. Yeah.
So you said that it was a full circle.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, this is going to be a bit of a strange cliche. And if you know, one of your ideas that you wanted to discuss was, as a student, how do you find your way and develop your career path? And I was pretty loose in school, like in high school. I was able to do well, but I didn't put a lot of work into it. And I actually had a teacher in high school who kind of foretold my catastrophic academic career.
Oh, wow.
I was receiving a grade back. It was like a political world history course or something.
Okay.
And the teacher gave me my grade back. We had an exam. I got an A on the exam. And I was kind of like just ribbing my buddies a little bit because, it was a piece of cake. And the teacher called me out hard. He's like, listen, man, you got an A, but you're going to fail in university because you got terrible work habits. And I was laughing at the time. I'm like, whatever, old man, I'll figure this out. But he was right. He was absolutely 100% right. So I went into university. I was cocky as could be, with my, whatever brain power I thought I had. And I didn't really think I had any. I was able to do decently well without a lot of effort.
You were smart.
Yeah, in a sense. Things came to me quickly. I paid attention in class, which I think set the difference. I could pay attention, I could absorb stuff, and then I could regurgitate it later. But when you get to university, there's a lot of work, especially in engineering. There's X amount of classes and tons of labs and stuff. There's just too much work. So if you don't have good work habits, you can't get through it all.
So what's one work habit that shaped your undergraduate? And then what do you do something after your undergraduate?
Well, listen, I need to tell you about this is part of the catastrophe. Went to university, went to McMaster, went into engineering, and I wasn't sure about doing engineering at first. In high school, I was going to do like accounting or business or actuarial science or something like that. Someone set that in my ear when I was a kid, and off I went. I fast-tracked high school. Back then, you had to do 5 years of high school. I graduated my 5 years in 4, but I had sacrificed all my sciences to do so. So I had all my English and maths and stuff to kind of get into a business program. By that time, I started driving, and I had a Spanish cousin come from Spain, and I bought my first car and learning about cars. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to build cars? So I said, that's it, I'm changing. I'm going to go become an engineer. So I went back to high school, and I had to get all my sciences. So I had to go back and get grade 11 physics and chemistry and stuff. It was called OAC at the time, but like an equivalent grade 13. Went back, got all those, and then I'm like, hey, I'm going to go into engineering. And I went to McMaster for first year, and at McMaster, it's like a general first year, so you don't have to specialize yet.
Right.
And I failed incredibly.
Wow.
Like, on the scale of failing, I was the most successful failure.
Wow.
Yeah, a long process of learning how to do it, right? And that's one thing. And, I was talking with my founders of my company the other day. We were having a lunch, and they were joking. Generally, the people in my company didn't take the lessons they learned in school to much value. Like, what they learned in school didn't really support their success, let's say. And I had a much different perspective. And, my history as a student was as an engineer, okay? And as an engineer, when I became an engineer, I needed the stuff I learned in school. I needed the calculus. I needed the physics, the mechanics and statics and stuff. I needed to do that for design, like to get things onto paper and eventually to build them. I actually had to utilize the things I used in school. And the things you think are silly, like not silly, but that you're never going to use, calculus and algebra and chemistry or whatever, I used pretty much all of them at the beginning of my career. And that's, that's an important thing. And even if, I didn't say this to them at the time, but even the things that they maybe don't perceive was foundational for them. The stuff they did learn is foundational. How to read and write, how to do simple math, how to do complex math. Because, they're doing complex spreadsheets and performance for the structures we put up. And that's not founded on nothing. That's founded on something and what they learned in school for sure. So
It's definitely interesting because people that don't use math, they often say that math, calculus, all of these things are useless, but you probably use it very often.
yeah, I did at the beginning of my career for sure.
Okay.
And now it informs me. Like, when I look at spreadsheets and stuff like that, you can see the glaring errors. But then also when I became a manager and a director or whatever it may be, so then you recognize you can't go through an entire spreadsheet. And sometimes I had to, link by link, to make sure that whoever produced something, or if I produced it, that all the links were correct. Because one link mistake in a spreadsheet, if you don't have an intuitive sense of what the number should be, you could be way off, and then you're going to put in your supporting data, which is garbage. So reviewing stuff with that foundation, and with the foundation of actually creating the spreadsheets myself, then you start to recognize just the mathematics. Like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. That number, that percentage isn't right. And then you can get into the depth of it and go through a review. And so you put in better quality work right at the end of the day.
So for students to get to that position, you need to do the hard work.
You got to do the hard work, man. You always have to do the hard work. You have to do
Absolutely.
the foundational work. Anybody who thinks you can skip that on a road to success, you listen. And there's lots of people who are super successful, young, and right out of the gates, and they caught onto some trend or something that made them super successful. But now they're going to have, in later years, something else is going to catch up to them, and they're going to pay the price of not having that foundation. Maybe they lose all their money because they don't know how to, manage their wealth well, because they didn't learn the fundamentals of managing wealth. So then they're going to lose their money, and then they're going to try and figure it out now. You could have a blessed, lucky life all the way through. Generally speaking, when you start to get older, you realize life is long, and there's a lot of, forks in the road and bumps along the way that can trip you up. And having a good understanding of everything could kind of smooth those out for you.
Interesting.
I had a friend show up, a really good buddy, and I lived in Sudbury, Ontario. I didn't know anybody at Mac when I was going to go, but this guy, he got into an arts program at Mac, and he showed up. I was at Frost Week, and he was there, and like, hey, my man, how are you? And he and I we dove into having a good time for a full year, and it showed. I think Mac at the time had a grade scale of like 0 to 13, where 0 being an F minus and 13 being an A plus. And I came out of that year with a wonderful 1.7, which is like an F.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. But this is where the lesson comes. Went tree planting that summer, and then came back and had to face the results of my academic failure.
Right.
In front of my parents. And I had a stepfather and my mom. I came back from tree planting, and we talked about my grades, and it was a nightmare. I had to go down to Mac and see what I could do or what I couldn't do. Basically, they said, no,
You're done.
you're not coming back here. They lead you on, like if you do such and such, you can get back on. But the truth of it is, you're out for at least a year. Don't even reapply.
Wow.
And my father was pretty upset. And he kind of laid down the law. He said, listen, I've always had a lot of freedom too when I was young. Like, my parents are like, I was out all at night when I was in high school, and I had lots of responsibility, but as long as I didn't mess up the responsibility, I had tons of freedom. But he kind of laid the law and said, listen, you made your choices. You're a man. You made choices, and these are the consequences of your choices. You can leave here and go be a man and get on with your life. But if you have any aspiration to actually go to university and maybe correct this mistake, you can live in this house, but you have to work full time and figure that out and save every bloody penny, because I won't support you ever to go to university. You'll have to do it on your own. So in that harsh reality of a father coming down and saying, that's it, man, you're a man, you made decisions, like, get on with the consequence of that. That really opened my eyes. And listen, I was washing pots at a nursing home for a full year. And that's where I started to develop my discipline. Right. So I get up early. I used to get up early in the morning. It was funny. I had this kind of ritual. There was a song by Guns N' Roses, and it was a remake of I think a Beatles song, Live and Let Die. And I had this I slept in a room with just a sleeping bag and a grapefruit tree and a little stereo, tiny little stereo. So I just cut everything out of my life. I get up every morning to just living on the little CD player. And then I get up, and I had to work in the afternoon, so I'd go to the woods, mountain bike in the woods and swim. Boom, get on my bike again, and I would bike all the way to work, and I'd work my shift. I worked at a nursing home. I was washing pots and serving food to the elderly. I had to do that for a year. You start washing pots for a year. When you had aspirations of being some big successful business guy, and you realize, hey, I'm washing pots, and this could be my life if I don't turn it
give
around
you-
fast. Yeah.
They give you motivation to keep
Oh
going.
man, super motivation, and more than motivation because it started to teach me discipline about organizing your life and prioritizing. What are you prioritizing to get you to where you want to go? Before I was prioritizing my social life and my friends and that experience, and that led me down a path that isn't where I wanted to end up because I did believe that I wanted to do something more than that. So washing those pots and knowing that there was going to be no assistance to manage the rest of my life, I had to get on with it. It was all me after that. Well, I'll tell you, if we get into the story a little bit, my dad and mom came to the rescue at about third year U, and I could talk a little bit about that. But so yeah, I actually read. So I started reading too in that year at McMaster. So I was spending more time reading. I never read in high school. And then I started picking up stuff like philosophy. I read the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which was a great book.
Which one?
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I think the author is Persig, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about books here.
Fantastic. Well, then, and this is going to be cliche and maybe a bit controversial, but then I read Ayn Rand's book, The Fountainhead. That was the second book that I read. And quite honestly, that was pivotal. Like, as controversial as she may or may not be, what she provided for me in that book, once I read that, I latched onto, like, she provided a structure and a vision.
What's the title of that one again?
The Fountainhead.
The Fountainhead?
The Fountainhead. Yeah, so it's Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged, We the Living. She has a bunch, and then she's got the philosophy called Objectivism.
Okay.
And it's a bit controversial, but that being said, it as a young man without much of a structure,
Right.
gave me something to kind of found moving forward again. Because
Okay.
he said, basically, that laid the idea for me of doing the hard work.
Right.
Like in that book, her work is essentially that. Like you have to do the foundational work. You have to do the hard work, and you have to kind of prioritize yourself a little bit to be able to get through all that. So that book kind of reshaped my vision of where I was going to go. And that's where the idea of building kind of came about. Like my father had just kind of built a house, and, it didn't come to fruition with the architect and the builder all very well. And I'm like, I could do a better job than this.
Okay.
So that's where I'm like, okay, I'm going to go into engineering. I'm going to go into civil and structural engineering.
You went back to McMaster's?
No, so they're like, you're done, buddy. You're so bad, forget it. We'll never touch you again. So I reapplied following year after doing dishes. I reapplied to McMaster and Windsor University.
Okay.
And Windsor was the only one who accepted me.
Okay.
They took me on, and they took me on probation. But I was like, okay, this is it. This is my shot. I need to make this work. So,
You learn from your mistakes.
oh yeah, big time. So I went down to Windsor. I kind of cut out all this stuff in my life. I even made my life even more compact in a sense, so I could really focus on this. And yeah, I had a great academic career. I worked out. My discipline was simply I went to the gym and I did judo. I picked up judo when I was in university. A gym, judo, school. I wasn't drinking. There was no partying. There was no anything. It was
All the
just,
good stuff.
And I started working because I had to work. I didn't have money. I saved enough to get through tuition and a year of living on my own in an apartment. Because I said I need to have no distractions. But after my first year, I was able to start building driveways. So there was a couple other students. We had a little company. Two guys had a company, and I was like a laborer. And we built paving stone driveways.
Oh.
Like a lot of hard labor, like 14-hour days, digging dirt and little machines and what have you that we did. But it was great. Like the three of us, we worked hard. I made cash. It was good. It was a good time. And in Windsor, it's not so cold. So like you can be building driveways even while you're in school up until November-ish. And then even in like March break and what have you, you can get some jobs. So yeah, if I wasn't in school, I was building driveways to make money. And then eventually I got an engineering position as a site inspector when I was in school.
So you graduated from Windsor?
Yeah, just undergraduate. And that's the thing too. So I was paying my own way up until the halfway through third year. And it was getting tough. And I could have taken loans, but my parents kind of stepped in and they said, listen, they're not going to help me with my tuition because my dad had, drawn the line in the sand. But when I wasn't working, they helped me pay my rent, which was great. And I'll love them forever. And their support for sure was fantastic. Yeah, so did my undergrad, finished the undergrad, and then couldn't find work when I graduated. It was tough. So again, being kind of self-reliant, I realized there was work out west, and I had $1,200 to my name. I booked a one-way ticket to Calgary, and I stayed in a youth hostel, which was $18 a day. I'm like, okay, I'll stay in a youth hostel, $18 a day, and I have this money that can last me, 2 or 3 months while I try to find work. And if I don't find an engineering work, then I'll take a job, working at Tim Hortons or something just to pay the bills. So my first objective was to get a place to live that was cheap, and I found a room in a house, which ended up being a great experience. for $350 a month. The second week that I was out there, I was going door to door. So this is like internet's kind of becoming a thing, but it's
Hopefully,
I went to a print shop and printed resumes, and then went to the phone book and went engineering firms. And on my second day, I landed at Adam Engineering. I walked in the door, knocked on the door, and said, I'm looking for work. And the guy looked at my CV right away, I did have some engineering experience, which was great, and hired me on the spot. He's like, oh, listen, when can you start? And I said, well, actually, like all my life stuff is in Ontario, like my books and my code books and stuff that I kind of need. And this was like a Tuesday. And he said, well, listen, can you be back for Friday? I'm like, oh, listen, I got to get all the way back and I got to get back here. I said, let me start work on Monday. He said, okay, be here on Monday. So, man, I got out of there. I got on the phone with my parents and said, listen, I just got a job. I can't believe
awesome.
it. Yeah. So my mom, she had points on her visa or something. I said, I'll fly you back. You can come out here, get your stuff. So, yeah, I came back and I started work on that Monday. And it was a structural engineering junior position. Yeah.
So I think I want to touch on three things that you've said
Sure.
so far. One, you had very bad grades at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, horrible.
So for students out there,
There's hope. You can turn it around.
grades are not everything. Don't stress about it. The second thing, you failed and you were proactive about it. You
Yeah.
learned from it. You said, that's what it is, and I'm going to have to get it done.
You got to turn it around. And you have to do it. Like, nobody's going to do it for you. You got to figure it out, pull up your britches or whatever it is, get the hard work done and get on with it.
And the third thing, you went and looked for opportunities outside of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
outside of your own city.
No
So-
family, no anything. Just
and
go.
that is pure discomfort zone. Prefer to stay at home or in your city where your books were or your friends. You would have never found your first job.
100% correct. You know, I was languishing when I was trying to find the first job. Oh, I can't do it. And how can I catch a break? And blah, blah, blah. Can somebody help me? You just kind of fall into that a little bit. But because I had such discipline and stuff through my schooling, once I was, like I was a month in languishing, I'm like, okay, this isn't the path. The path is go out there and put yourself into chaos, and the need will drive you to find a solution.
Absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit about your professional day-to-day.
Nowadays, well, that's a great question. I love where I am day to day now. So day to day for me now is much more on negotiation, and not just negotiation on contracts and stuff. And that is a big part of it. But it's pulling together a team and getting the team to perform. I'm really finding I like a lot. Like you get a chance to, I don't want to say pick players, but to some degree we pick players because we have to get on a consulting team, and then I have to get on a construction manager, which is like a general contractor. And then all the subcategories of all that have to be picked and chosen as well. So that's one aspect that I have to kind of build a team. And then as you're going through the development and construction of stuff, then you have to be able to negotiate and figure out all the pitfalls and find a path through all the difficulties. And that's kind of, as a director, that's kind of what my role is. I have to sit in a room lots of times because generally speaking, everything runs smooth and then there's a roadblock.
Okay.
And then how do you get through the roadblock? Well, my job is to come in and listen to everybody, have their complaints and or their ideas, right? And then kind of on the spot analyze those and then kind of find a path forward. And that's where all that hard work and experience starts to pay off, because if you haven't been through something, and even if you have been through a lot of things, with experience, the stuff I go through now is always new, something I haven't done. But the experience is knowing how to get through something you haven't done before.
Okay. Yeah.
So my role now is essentially to find a way through things that are new, that no one's found a way to get through before. And I love that. That's the best part of my job. I think you talk about stress or something maybe in one of the ideas that you wanted to talk about. Yeah, and that's where I started to excel. I started to excel under pressure and with stressful situations. I started to look at stress differently. And that took a long time to learn, because usually you're just stressed out. Like, oh my God, how am I going to get this done? Or I don't want to have to confront that person, and we're going to have conflict and I don't want conflict, all that kind of stuff. But once you recognize that conflict is part of anything you do, you learn to deal with it better and then take it and stress. Think of it differently. Think of it as like opportunity. Don't be so stressed about conflicts. Just, hey, we're going to figure this out. It's an opportunity to do something new, to figure out a path out of something we didn't know how to do before. So it's going to be a little bit rough. And, once you identify something that's kind of in everybody's subconscious or something where they don't want to address it, that's where the stress is. But once you actually address a problem and confront somebody and, okay, let's meet it somewhere and let's talk about the issues, you'll find that it opens up really fast. Like all of a sudden, they may have great ideas of, they know the mistakes they made or that I made or whatever. and we can talk about it. Oh, okay, I should have done that, or boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, let's do that. Let's drive forward on a path now. So not being afraid of confrontation, thinking about stress differently. That's what I do now.
Interesting.
And how I kind of drive TCU. And we've, TCU's, I've been on there for about 4.5 years now. And I got on right in one of the most difficult periods of construction ever, through the COVID. Spatial, requirements and material costing going crazy. And, we had to renegotiate contracts because trades were having a heck of a time figuring this out. It was, costs were going through the roof. It was,
I remember that at the event, you told us that aluminum went up in price or something.
well,
like that?
everything went up. Like wood in particular. Wood, in the projects we were doing, we had one concrete 9-story building and we had 4 wood structures on the go. So everything went up particularly high, and that was difficult.
I think if I remember correctly, you were telling us that
We have a structure now that
Right.
we remodeled into a hybrid structure, which is concrete and wood.
concrete and wood.
So that building was initially in a pro forma, I think, a concrete building. Concrete was too expensive. It got turned into wood at one point. Through COVID, wood went crazy. We redesigned into a steel structure because we wanted to put brick on it. And so
Okay.
we had almost like an exoskeleton of steel on the wood. We're like, might as well just be steel because we're spending so much for this extra framing to kind of hold the brick. We went to steel. The war in Ukraine breaks out. Steel goes through the roof. It gets hard to even supply steel. So we had to redesign that building again, and we ended up redesigning a hybrid of 2 levels of concrete with a wood structure on top. And 4 levels of wood is not as expensive as, let's say, 6 levels of wood because there's lateral forces you have to take into account, which require, let's say, a lot of steel. So that, but that's one building. Look at the challenges of just trying to find an efficient costing design, and then you find it, and then the world changes, and you got to go back to the drawing board and work with the teams, and all the time that's extending the schedule, that's bleeding cash, that's really hard on a project. But at the end of the day, we've found a solution. We got a great CM. We were using Pomelo on that project, and they've done an excellent job of bringing that project together. And we're about 6 to 7 months before we substantially complete that project.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. What's your favorite part about seeing a project go from the plans to the reality?
Every step is pretty cool. Like you always like the milestones just because it marks something in time of achievement, right? So, getting approval at the city, that's a big milestone. You're like, okay, we can finally go. Let's get going. First shovel on site, digging your hole, laying a foundation, topping off your structure. Okay, we have the structure now. We need to fill it in with all the mechanical, electrical components and what have you. And you kind of do it as you go. But, having the top on and getting it watertight, you're like, okay, having a watertight structure makes me feel comfortable because you can start doing your interiors and not have it destroyed by weather and stuff. So, and then, of course, bringing the project to completion where you start leasing up the units and you start making some revenue. The whole path is pretty awesome. It's pretty exciting all the way. And there's always something that you're excited about.
I'm very passionate about all of this, and not maybe like I don't know as much on the engineering side, but I really want to get into real estate and working on some of these projects
Yeah,
because every step of the way is like a little baby that you
Yeah.
watch it grow.
You got to watch grow and you got to nurture
Yeah.
it. You got to get it to the next step.
Exactly. So we've talked about these high stakes decisions in projects. So you've managed everything from home builds, almost billion-dollar projects,
Yeah.
right? How do you stay sharp when the whole project depends on your decisions?
How do you stay sharp? I think a lot of this becomes, trust in yourself and trust in your team. That's one thing I can't stress enough to the people out there who might be listening to this. Be careful with career jumping. Do it as you feel necessary to elevate your position. But you're going to find, as you move through your career, the most joy you have is when you're on a great team. When you have great people around you, that by far has been the happiest I've ever been at work. When I've got a great team humming, it's like fun. You're laughing. You're driving through problems that are crazy problems, but you know that you have their back, they have your back. You're going to figure this out. You're going to get through it. If you don't have that, it's really hard to make decisions because then you start to hesitate. Will I get supported by my team if I do this? More psychology kind of plays a big role. And then you don't feel comfortable. You hesitate. So have a great team. Trust in your team. And that doesn't mean like we're all like patting each other on the back and agreeing with each other. We challenge each other, but we trusted and respected each other enough to like put out ideas that can be challenged. And then eventually you find, okay, this is going to be the one idea we're going to try because you kind of vetted out a whole bunch of ideas in an environment where you can vet them out properly, right? So that really lays the groundwork to be able to move forward with decisions. You're like, okay, because a good decision that you can implement is a heck of a lot better than an excellent or perfect decision that you can't come up with, or it'll take you another 10 years to figure it out, right? And in this business, time is kind of the enemy. Your schedule will kill a project and it will kill your money. So you have to be able to make decisions as quickly as you can to move things forward. So have a good team for sure.
I've mentioned this book, but The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about communication and the synergy in a team. The synergy, it's really important, right? That
For sure.
can create like a lot more productivity than a team that is not synergetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are a lot of things that could go wrong in a building, right? And you have the responsibility. Like it could fall down, like the electrical could go off, like so many different pitfalls. How do you stay consistent? How do you stay calm? How do you stay relaxed and on top of the game?
Well, that stems again from
Having a good team.
having a decent base of experience, right? So you know you can get through things, and everything has an element of danger, right? Otherwise, we'd just all be bubble wrapped and drinking out of straws.
Right.
So no matter what your career is, you might just be doing spreadsheets, but there is an element of maybe financial loss that could be catastrophic to somebody. In the business that I'm in, there's physical people doing physical work at dangerous times in dangerous positions. Hanging off a high-rise building is not a lot of fun, and when it's minus 20 and you're hanging off a rope trying to do some hard manual labor.
Do you guys do that at minus 20 degrees?
We do, yeah. So I don't do it anymore. Like when I started my career, I had to go up on swing stages as a structural engineer to do some investigations. And you get a little bit used to it, but it's terrifying. It's called a swing stage for a reason, because that thing is swinging and pivoting, and
Oh my God.
it's not for everybody. And you're working at heights, and it's a little bit terrifying. But we don't have buildings. If somebody doesn't have the courage to do that, right? So
That's scary.
and for somebody, it's an opportunity, because a lot of people won't have the courage to do that. Some contractors will specialize in that and say, we can figure this out. We can do a good job that's safe, and we can be productive, and we can charge good money for it, because few people will want to do that. It creates opportunity, right? So
Yeah, that's the risk premium.
yeah.
So I want to learn about the skills that you've learned outside of school.
Yeah.
So school is very often useless, like what they teach you like during lectures and stuff. It's more often useless than the stuff that you learn outside of school.
Yeah.
So what's one skill, habit, routine, something that you've learned outside of school?
Yeah, the most important thing, and I hope this comes across well, because I'm going to tell you what the most important thing is, and your listeners can tell you if I actually can do it. And it was not an easy one for me, but I recognize that being able to articulate yourself is one of the most important things. So you can't be a leader if you can't articulate your idea. You could be a genius and have the most genius idea, but if you can't explain it to people and get them on board with it, your idea is going nowhere. So I work really hard to teach my son that. I get him to write, to present to me, read a book, and then give me a little book review on it or something to that effect. Because what it does is it teaches him how to public speak and how to be able to convey ideas without any notes. Okay, here we are, we have some guidelines, but we're talking without notes, right? And you have to be able to do that. You can't sit in any room at any level, and you'll notice it right away. You'll notice you go to a meeting, and you'll notice the players who can articulate their ideas and have good ideas. You'll notice the ones who maybe can't articulate but have good ideas, kind of workhorses. And then you'll notice people who can't do either. And they're not really useful on your team. And you're going to just start distinguishing that. You're going to say, hey, there's 10 people in this room, but really there's 3 or 4 or maybe 2 who are going to solve whatever that meeting's for, right? And then all of a sudden you'll start to gravitate to that, and then the rest becomes superfluous. So if you want to distinguish yourself and to have a career that's rewarding too, because when you can articulate, that means you're participating, right? So many times in the youth of my career, I had ideas, but I was so scared to speak up. I'd be sweaty palms, I'm scared, I have an idea, I want to speak up, but I was just too afraid, too embarrassed, whatever that may be. And that's what I'm trying to teach my son not to be. I said, start learning to articulate now, make mistakes now, fumble around now, trying to learn to speak, how to present stuff, so you get better at it as you get older. So I didn't start in my late 20s. I was given lots of responsibility early in my career that forced me to meet clients and do stuff like that. So I kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit, which is great. But if you're young and you're starting off, don't be afraid to make yourself look like a fool. You'll never be a king if you can't be a fool, right? So you have to get through that phase.
I like that quote.
Yeah, it's a great one. I've heard it from somebody else, so it's not mine for sure.
Can you say it again?
You have to be a fool before you can be a king, right? Which means when you want to take on anything new, you don't know how to do it. So if you start doing something new, you're going to be foolish. You're going to be a fool, right? But you have to get through that phase in order to become good, which means then you can become the king of something or really good at something. So if you're afraid to make yourself look like a fool, you're never going to achieve anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
being in
right.
discomfort. You have to put
Right.
yourself in discomfort.
Okay, so let's look at some of your habits.
Oof. Yeah, my habits are extreme. So sure, let's go. Okay, well, in the best world, and when I'm on par, when I'm programmed in nicely, I get up about 5:30,
Okay.
and I train with my son. Like I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and my son's 15,
Okay.
and I live near a civic hospital area, so there's an experimental farm.
Yeah. Okay.
He and I get up, and
Run.
we go to the farm, and we do body weight exercises.
Oh,
We do
okay.
squats and push-ups, and we walk, or we do some like light sprinting and skipping and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just to move the body, get the body going. He doesn't like getting up that early. But once we get out, then he loves it because he's just with his dad and it's like beautiful in the morning and it's cool and it's great. So at the end, he loves it, but I got to wake him up every morning. He's not jumping to go.
My dad always encouraged me to be more active. So he'll be like, you need to do more
And he knew
exercise.
something.
You need to go to the gym. You need to do that.
And my son, if he's going to hear this, he's going to be devastated that I said it. But he was getting a little chubby. And, I'm like, hey, this is on you. It's your life. You're going to figure it out. Why don't you just come with me a little bit? And then he had some success in transforming his body. And then he started to get muscular, he started to get strong. And I was working out with him a lot when he was young, but he was living between two households. So let's say lifestyle and nutrition and stuff was different between the two. And not bad either way, just different. So anyway, when he started to get some muscles, then he started looking in the mirror, he's like flexing, it's getting pretty funny. He started to get engaged in it. And now he's 15, but he's strong as a man. Like he's a bull. Like we do a lot of kettlebells, a lot of high rep stuff. And now he's a beast. Yeah.
That's what matters to it. Okay, so
Well, it's funny you say that, because we were talking about, when we started this about being successful. And I was joking, my lady got up and said, oh, you're going to tell young people how to be successful? I'm like, no, I'm going to teach them how to fail catastrophically. And that's going to lead them to figuring things out, right? And that's kind of the idea, too, with my son. Wasn't happy with it. He had to figure a way to make it better. And,
Be proactive.
Yeah, exactly. Be proactive and figure it out.
excellent.
And-
With all the responsibility you carry and all of the mistakes you've learned from, how do you take care of yourself and make time for personal life outside of work?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. And we're going to get into a bit of a story here. I have struggled with that to some degree, and I've come to terms with it differently than maybe what you're going to expect. So, and this is where some of the catastrophe comes in, like trying to balance life and then not having a good career, not having a good life either, because you're trying to appease everybody. Early in my career, I had difficulty saying no. You have to learn to manage your energy and your capacity, I think would be a better word.
Boundaries?
Yeah, because you can't do everything for everybody no matter how much you want. And that could mean family as well. As your boss or your family, if you're a leader in doing your own company, there's going to be people you need to be able to say no to so you can get on with doing the things that you need to do. And then you have to really assess. I think we make a mistake of separating. People think, hey, I go to my job and that's my job. And then I go home and I'm not working there. I'm paying attention to my family and stuff. And I had made that mistake, another catastrophe through, I went through a divorce. And that was one of the things that I took away from that. So a lot of people would put blame on somebody or another thing. I looked at it and say, what was I doing wrong? What was I doing that made that situation turn into what it was? And part of the findings from that kind of introspective review was trying to do too much and not being true to myself. So then you start to learn if you're doing something you love, it shouldn't really feel like something separate from the other stuff. So, for example, like I love what I do so much now that I'm always talking to my son and my lady friend. I live with another woman now, which is great. We started a life together. Listen, I go to work and I'm working all the time. So when I'm at home, guess what I'm excited about? Guess what I'm talking about?
Work.
And I'm not ashamed of that anymore. Listen, they're excited to hear it, and I'm excited to hear what they're doing too. We can throw ideas to each other and help each other. We do things together, obviously, that aren't work. I like to be physical. I do judo with my son, and we started skiing and mountain biking and stuff like that. So reintegrating some physicality has been great for getting fresh air and nature and
Being active.
social activity, which you need.
Right.
But I no longer disassociate my life from my work.
I like
They're kind
that.
of integrated. I like sharing it. I love sharing. I tease my son. We talked about success here. For success, that means a lot to different people. I might get a little emotional here, but it's happening already. Success for me will be being able to transfer to my son, a small portfolio of something, whatever it may be. Of knowledge, no, but of knowledge for sure. Like that's number one.
Right.
Like my job as a father is to teach my son,
Right.
so that he has the tools to go and do it on his own. And then what I'm trying to do is have something for him because I didn't come from generational wealth. And when my father died, there was nothing to help me out. Should be no expectation of that as a child. You should not have expectation. However, what great things can you do if you start with a different foundation? So I want to start my son with a different foundation than I had. Want him to have the tools and the wisdom, give him whatever my wisdom is, the opportunity. He'll develop his own, but now he'll start from a different level. So where I started from failing and having to scrap my way for 30 years to get a bit of something, he may be able to start off with maybe a little real estate portfolio and maybe a couple other investments and what have you. And then he'll go from there. And then what can he do to that? And what can he transfer to maybe his children or whatever?
Right.
The most important thing, though, is the drive and the belief in yourself that you can do something. If I can turn something else over, I'll feel that I've been pretty successful.
So I want to touch on three things that you've said. One, I really find interesting because, of course, the cliche is that you need to have a hard stop on your work life when you get home. And I've heard that. I've interviewed people and I've asked the same question, and they say, "Oh, when I get home, it's done. I don't talk about work. I don't think about work."
Yeah.
But I like that because if you really like what you're doing, why would you want to stop it?
And even sometimes when you don't like what you're doing, it's in there anyway. Like when I'm struggling on a problem, even when I was doing engineering, like I got an engineering problem, I'm like, my brain's, 2 a.m. Okay, it's still going. It's hard to turn off. And then you try to pretend you're not thinking about it. Then you start to have conflict because you're like trying to pretend. So you can't pretend. If I need to say to my wife or to my lady now, I need some time, I need to figure this out. It's bothering me and I can't be present with you now because this is bothering me. So let me go take care of this. And then we can come back and we can do something different, right? So trying to pretend, not being able to say no, I need to be able to say, no, I can't do that. I need to take care of this. And when things are tied off, then you're more free. When you have the discipline to finish things and be done with them, then I can be more present with my family. If we decide to go for dinner or if we decide to go for a ski or something. Now I'm skiing. I'm free. I'm not thinking about the problem anymore.
Right.
I've taken care of it. So,
And I like that too because then your son is able to maybe learn from that and share with you what's happening at school.
Exactly. And now he knows how to address it too.
Right.
And he's become pretty good at it. He says, "Dad, I need to do some work." I'm like, "Okay, do your work." And we can kind of schedule how much time do you need? "Oh, Dad, I probably need 2 hours." "Okay, do 2 hours. And then we'll meet at 3 o'clock and we'll do judo or whatever it may be. In which case he feels better. He's got his stuff done. And he can be present with me. And we can do whatever it is we're doing together, better.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I do jiu-jitsu.
Fantastic.
What belt are you on judo?
I'm a brown belt. And I've been a brown belt since 2004.
Oh, wow, that's scary.
and I started in 1994. So I was a recreational player. So I picked it up when I was in university. I was doing a lot of like bodybuilding weight training stuff. And even after a couple of years of doing that, I'm like, what's the end game of this? Like,
Okay.
what am I really learning?
Right.
Now, there's a ton of things you learn from doing heavyweight training, like the discipline to endure pain, all that kind of stuff, because you can transform your body. But I found there wasn't something more functional in the real world. So that's when I started doing judo. And I fell in love with judo, love judo, would recommend it to anybody for sure. And jiu-jitsu, I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and it's great.
I did one class of judo. Or actually, I was doing jiu-jitsu, and my sensei switched senseis with a judo sensei.
Yeah.
And I think he was a
Blue or...
I really thought it was purple.
Well, no, judo belts are pretty... There's no purple.
Really? Interesting.
There's Japanese jiu-jitsu, which may have a purple belt in, but I don't know, so don't beat me up on the internet if I get that wrong.
I might be just remembering the belt wrong, but I am sure that it was judo.
Yeah.
He actually taught us judo in that class. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
scary because jiu-jitsu, it's a lot of on the ground.
And the
Judo,
lots of throwing.
oh
Yeah.
my God.
My body's a little bit beat up.
This guy just like threw me to the ground, and in 3 seconds he was on top of me, like,
Boom, submission.
and I couldn't breathe. Boom,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's something interesting because, same as when you go to the gym, you go and have pain, you learn from it.
Yeah, exactly.
And judo and all of these martial arts, you can maybe take it as self-defense, but when have you really taken it as
I've used it a couple of times just horsing around with my chums.
right?
Gave to me which is really quite incredible, and that's why I have my son do it. When you do these things, you also learn that you don't want to do them in the streets. You don't have to. Like, you have when you're young or even when you're old, because I see a lot of old guys come in and they're doing it for the wrong reasons. But let's say you have an ego or you have something to prove in the world, you want to walk around. But trust me, you go to these jiu-jitsu classes, or
You get
judo
humbled.
classes or something, you get humbled. and you realize, some small person can just smoke you
Yeah.
bad, like embarrassingly bad,
Yeah.
and that you have to work hard, and it's not easy. Like, you know, when you get great technique, it's flawless and it's effortless. To learn how to have great technique, you got to go through 10 years of hell of recognizing that it's not going to come easy. And even when you have that great technique, it's still not so easy to pull off in the real world. And not even easy to pull off in class, in your dojo. So you recognize that you don't really need to prove anything to anybody. You just feel comfortable, you feel confident, you feel what gave me was confidence in my body.
Absolutely.
I was a super skinny guy. I was like 6'1", 135 pounds. Like I was like, didn't want anybody to touch me. So that's why I started working out. But then in judo, you get a lot of physical contact. So you just start to become comfortable with your body, being thrown, being touched, being manipulated. And that changed the game for me. That gave me a much different outlook on life and made me more confident as I move forward in life. So,
Absolutely. I relate to that. I watched some people do jujitsu at the gym, and I was like, because I was only doing Muay Thai, and I was watching people doing jujitsu, and I'm like, that looks very uncomfortable. It's
yeah,
just
yeah. Man in pajamas, like, what's going on?
yeah. So I'm like, what is going on? That looks very uncomfortable. They are
Yeah.
touching their
Oh, yeah,
legs, and I'm like,
all
what the
spot.
heck? It looks very uncomfortable. But once you do it, myself, I've learned with jujitsu that you get humbled. You learn how to use your body.
Yeah.
You learn how to like push through pain, or because you are on a lock and you're
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get out.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to tap out.
Yeah. You're solving a problem.
Exactly.
So you have to figure out how to get out without giving up. Now, you give up before it gets dangerous, but as you're going through the steps, chess match. And that's one thing that's great. You're learning how to reason. You're learning problem solving. Someone presents a problem to you. They're going to
And
get you an
fast.
armbar or something. You got to figure out how to get out of it.
Yeah, and fast. So like if you could, you have either you have the options of tap out, which for me is like I'm giving up,
Yeah.
or you calm yourself down, you are proactive, and see what you can do.
And then that's key what you just said too. You have to be able to calm yourself down to be able to reason. It's the same principle. Calm yourself down. Don't get emotional. Get all the information you can, and then make a decision to move forward. And it's the same as you're in a stressful situation. Calm down, assess the situation, make a decision, and try to move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you said, it's a chess match. If you put your arm in the middle, that might be the end of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
really need to think about it. So now I'm going to go with a round a bit more chill. Right. Okay. So what's your dream city or building to develop?
Dream City?
Or dream building?
Oh, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be surprising. Not necessarily surprising. Okay, so I think about this a lot. Obviously, this is part of my career and part of who I am as a person. And I love the buildings we build, and we're getting better and better at the buildings we build. And I'm about to build a 30-story tower.
Wow.
Be my first one. It's going to be epic. Like, I'm super, super excited. We lean into a little bit of technology, let's say. So materiality for buildings, pretty consistent. There could be some innovation there, but the programming and apps that people use to be able to get into the building and pay their accounts and use the amenity spaces and facilities are becoming very digital, let's say. Where I really love the opposite of that. So a dream for me would be to someday build some sort of gorgeous structure, a beautiful structure, aesthetically beautiful, okay? But in materiality, that's old world, like wood, stone, brick, simple systems like key locks and radiant heating floors and stuff like that.
It would be pretty cool, like at a waterfront, something like that.
Honestly, I would like to have it in the city. I like the calmness of it, the serenity, the simplicity of it. I like the tactile touching of real things as compared to man-made plastics.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of advantages to using the more modern type of materials, but my dream someday would be to have a building in the old world, with different spatial parameters than we use now.
Interesting.
Arches and, So yeah, that would be my dream. But on the other hand, building the 30-story tower that we're working on design right now is also going to be an epic dream of mine. Like, 30 stories is
that's pretty
and
cool.
for Ottawa, it's going to be, and it's in the complexity of putting something like that together. It's a whole bunch of moving parts. So to be able to do that, I'm excited about that challenge.
Where's he located?
So that, so you went to one of our projects. Okay, the site trailer you came
Yeah.
when you first had it. So that was on Cummings Avenue. So that's going to be the site where you were in the site trailer having with your team there.
Oh, wow.
That actual piece of property is going to be the location. Now that is slated for actually 2 30-story towers with a shared underground parking. So That's pretty epic.
Wait, you said 230-story?
Yeah. But we're doing the first phase now.
Okay.
So we broke it into 2 phases. And it made sense for us as a company. So we're moving forward on the first phase.
Okay, that's
And
interesting.
we're
So,
looking to be in the construction next year, early next year.
and then the other 30-story will be on the other
Next
side
door.
of the street?
Yeah, so we'll have like twin tower kind of ideas. Yeah.
So we went through
No,
the
on the
one.
other side of the street, same property.
Okay, so you guys have 3 properties like right there. That's awesome.
Plus we got the Joseph here, which is not too far away.
Awesome. I hope I get to visit that 30-story.
Oh, for sure. But listen, you'll probably be in the working environment, killing it, whatever you're doing, and come by for sure.
That'd be awesome. This is more of a comic question. Have you ever had a construction fail moment?
Well, listen, every day is a construction fail. Like, I don't know. You mean like something that maybe I could have done better? Because I got a lot of those too. Well, luckily I haven't had that, because
Okay.
then I probably wouldn't be a practicing engineer. Well, I'm not actually. This year I stopped being a practicing engineer. I do have something that haunts me, and all engineers have projects that haunt them because they
Okay.
could have done something better. But I strangely have one project that haunts me, and it's not because it's going to fall down. It's just because I didn't do it very well aesthetically.
Okay.
So what it was, I worked on Detroit was building a new football field for the Detroit Lions, and I got to work on some of the lateral restraining systems for an adjacent building that was part of the dome structure. And it had the lateral restraining system was going to be on display,
Okay.
which means it was exposed. It wasn't hidden behind the walls. So it was going to be this kind of cross bracing that went up, I think it was 10 stories, 10, 11 stories. Big, beautiful 6-inch tube steel that was taking out the lateral load from the building, of an existing building that had to be retrofitted. As a company, I got to do the engineering for it. I got to do the detailed design of it, and we got to fabricate it and install it. So I was working in Detroit for a small engineering firm that was associated with a steel fabricator. So I got to do the whole thing, which was great. So I did it, and there's something called like gusset plates. But essentially the tube steel, which is your cross bracing at every floor, has to get attached to the structure.
Okay.
And this structure had both steel and concrete skeleton, let's say. And you get plates that attach to the existing structure, and you have what's called a gusset plate that your tube steel would be attached to.
Very complicated.
But for an engineer, it's, this is what
Right.
they do every day. I had designed it, and I made it kind of like big and rectangular, okay, which added for additional steel that wasn't, say, necessary in the
Okay.
design. And it should have been kind of cut back. Anybody who is good at doing structural fabrication drawings or steel drawings, and who's a good steel designer, when he goes to Ford Field to watch the Detroit Lions play, he's going to look at that steel and go, who the hell designed that? Because it could have been done better. So that one haunts me for sure. I'm happy that it's well designed and it's not going to fall down, but I didn't make it beautiful. I didn't do it quite right. That one gets me.
So what do you learn? What do you put something in place so that doesn't happen again?
Well, just having that experience for sure. Like I don't have a checklist or something that I go, hey, is it beautiful? That's kind of ingrained in my mind now. And there's always that balance between efficiency, cost efficiency, and beauty, and using different materials that you would want to use as compared to what you can afford to use or what the project can afford to use. Right. That would have been a simple thing that could have been done better. That wouldn't have cost anything.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
What's your one thing you wish every student should know or do?
One thing every student should know or do. Well, I think we touched on it earlier. I think every student should learn to participate. Whatever class you're in, listen, if you're in school, participate in being in school. Like join a team, join a club, like this real estate club. And this is fantastic. When you guys came and you had your club and how enthused everybody was, like the amount of information you're gaining from this real estate club
It's so valuable.
is so valuable. Now, you could be at home not participating, or you could be doing what you guys are doing. And you guys are, in my mind, leveling up so much more than the students who aren't. Right? So if there's anything I would say, and I tell this to my son, I say you have to participate. If you're there, give it 100%, be present, be there. So in this case, if you're in school, take advantage of what school has to offer.
Absolutely. It has so much to offer. I'm part of the real estate club, and we went with TCU to 3 of their sites, and it was an incredible experience. It was like 6 hours long, and it was such an incredible experience to actually be in the industry. In the classroom, you look at pictures, you look at nothing. That's just a screen.
Yeah.
If you get out there and see
And
what people are doing,
have the wind in your face,
Absolutely.
like you said, when it's minus 20 and you're on the top of a 30-story building, what's that going to feel like? And
Absolutely.
you're going up the cage elevator on the side of it.
that is not.
That's the real thing. And then it makes you think about how do you want to design better, or do you even want to do that, or whatever it may be. Having real visceral experience is super important. And just experience in general. Just do as much as you can. And trust me, you have the energy. You can do it. I'm 53. I still try to do it. When you're in your 20s, trust me, you got tons of energy. Get out there and do it. There's no excuse. You know?
Absolutely. So, for my last question, this is a popular question. If you could put a billboard in every corner around the world, and you could put a phrase or a quote that everybody would look at and slowly change their mindset, what phrase or quote would you put on it?
That's a tough one. I wish I would have had a little bit of time to think about that because
It's a deep question.
and it's a great question. Like it really is a good question. Like I think what we just talked about, like participate in life, like something like that makes a lot of sense to me. You know, yeah, I honestly think, we talk about success, and I think participate in life or experience life would be have courage, take risk, managed risk, obviously. You can make good decisions or you can have great stories. So that may sound a little contradictory, but the idea being great decisions aren't everything too. Like if you want to have great stories, you got to make some stupid decisions and have an experience, right? All good decisions in business are great, but a little bit of risk, a little bit of craziness also gives flavor to life, and it teaches you. That's where the catastrophe and all that other stuff kind of come in. You get yourself into a bit of a hairy situation, but when you get out of that, hopefully you get out of it, you got great stories and your life's enriched for sure. So
Good decisions are poor teachers.
you can have good decisions or you can have great stories.
Great phrase. That's a great quote. Fun fact of the week. Did you know that the tallest timber building is right here in Ottawa? The
I didn't know that.
18-story Brock Commons in Vancouver proves you don't need steel and concrete to build big dreams.
Ontario Building Code is a little bit more restrictive right now. And they're trying to work on, I think we've gone a little bit more restrictive actually in the latest edition of the code. Let some of my consultants speak up because I'm not on the cutting edge of these things anymore so much.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing more concrete than wood in our future for sure.
Okay, that's good.
But wood structures are fantastic. If you can do them, they're beautiful. Think about that.
Tall.
That's a tall
wood
structure.
building. That's a
But
tall tree.
it's cross-laminated timber. It's a different type of wood structure than we think of. It's very different.
Interesting.
And Europe's doing great stuff, and that's finally coming here. So.
I'm guessing they mix the wood with other
Resins and
elements.
stuff. We've had that around for a long time. It's called glue lam, and like you say, there's resins that help bind the wood to make it
More stable.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so what is your takeaway for students?
I mean,
Wrap it up.
work hard. Go after what you want. Learn to say no. Participate. Don't be afraid to make yourself look like a fool, and get out there and participate in life and participate in your school. And join a club. Join the real estate club if you're interested in real estate for sure, because you got a really good group there. I'm sure there's other great clubs, but I was particularly impressed with the club you guys have put together and the people you have in it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's a really good wrap up. Okay, well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming up. It's been a absolute pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, for me too.
And
I was a little nervous. I've never done one of these before, but really you did a great making me feel comfortable and having a nice conversation. So
Oh, that's great. It's just
Yeah.
all about having a good time and sharing with people.
Yeah, thanks for having me.